All right, hello, welcome back. We are about to start the New York AM session, Silver Bullet. Yep. All right. So far, quite lackluster opening, small opening or no opening range gap at all. Just banging around. Somewhat consolidated. Fun fact, after long open session closed there, price was basically just consolidating. So exactly as I was anticipating, and then eventually going into the 7 a.m. it started to move lower for the pre-market, leaving very smooth buy side liquidity here, lots of buy side liquidity above those London session highs. So yeah, that's kind of what we are dealing with currently. So yeah, the opening range definitely didn't offer much of a movement at all. So I assume that it's quite reasonable to expect some kind of move for a silver bullet. So we'll see. Initially, I kind of like the equal highs that are being formed currently. But yeah, I suppose we might. We need to wait for some protraction here. So let's see. Buy side liquidity noted. Sell side liquidity resides here currently. Alrighty. All right, so 2 more minutes, 1 more minute, 1.5 roughly, and the silver bullet hour will begin. Initial idea that I like is those equal highs from the pre-market. I think they are kind of too smooth at the moment. It's a quite reasonable initial draw on liquidity. All right, so 10 a.m. started right now or just now. Based on the RTH, we have technically buy side still pretty smooth and sell side pretty smooth at the same time. Yeah. Kinda tricky though, kinda tricky. The sell side liquidity here, very, very smooth. And not gonna lie, I'm placing a little bit of the weight of the move right now currently. Until proven otherwise, I kind of like the sell side though. Initially. So yeah, we will kind of see. So yeah, all of these candles are kind of overlapping. No inefficiencies are being formed at all, which isn't necessarily the best sign so far. So I mean, currently that's quite difficult of a read because we are inside of a range that was basically delivered both sides inside of. So both sides were technically offered. All right, so we can see a run on the bias liquidity here first. Breaking out of this range. So let's see if we will form a busy or a fair value gap in here right now. All right, so we have a fair value gap that was formed. No volume imbalance there, so this is the inefficiency. And yeah, now I would suspect actually a run from this inefficiency into those relative equal highs, something like that. How much of a range is that? 30 handles around with 30 stop around. But yeah, that's just something to watch and see here. We did also took out relative equal highs at the same time, so kind of gotta be careful with it. And there is this premium inefficiency there also. All right, so that's looking quite nice in here. It closed above this inversion, so it should have no problems whatsoever to just jump to and through the relative equal highs. Okay, so looks like we got the buy side liquidity here. And the 30 handles did deliver with around 15 handles drawdown. So that's nice, but yeah, what comes after that, I'm not necessarily sure at the moment. I'm not necessarily sure what it wants to do after clearing the buy side here. So now we have technically a reclaimed inversion for value gap. Small little inefficiency there too. Well, we'll see. We'll see. So far we are stopping at the octane here after clearing the relative equal highs. I still think or still believe that the relative equal highs from the London open session might be the ultimate kind of draw for this morning session on the upside. So the potential on the upside is still technically there, but now after we've taken those equal highs here, it kind of depends how strong the price will be actually, right? So it kind of needs to prove itself. because at this point it could easily see a retracement or consolidation also. So, you know. All right, one more time sweeping above the highs here, but couldn't even close above it. Gave all the range back, and it's closing near the low. Interesting. It would need to overtake this premium week rather convincingly, rather soon. All right, let's see. Not gonna lie, I kind of like the Celsa liquidity still. Celsa liquidity still on the downside. We've just cleared relative equal highs by sell liquidity. We cannot breach this octane on a closing basis at the moment. So I'm watching and waiting for the price to start showing some potential signs that it maybe wants to sell off. Yeah, at least I want to give it a chance, a potential to do so. Even if it keeps on going higher, that's fine. But yeah, the line in the sand at this moment would be this fair value gap from 10.06, and the upper half of that would need to show discount sensitivity if it's continuously strong and or bullish. So far price traded lower, but couldn't even reach this fair value gap with the week, and now showing some displacement. So this, in my mind, if it's strong, it should have no issues with taking this short-term high at 10.15. It should just have easy time running that high, I believe. All right, so this candle here, where it showed potential initial strength because it failed to reach the level here and rallied, then gave away the next candle. This is now interesting because this low, high, lower low, if it's bullish, actually this will shoot up from here and continue seeking some higher buy side. But if it's for whatever reason not as bullish, then we will see closing prices below this consecutive encroachment of the fair value gap, and that would be indicative of some bearishness. I don't necessarily want to go too fast forward with it. But yeah, again, I kind of like this sell liquidity down there. I kind of like it. All right, so looks like we are losing this level here also. So yeah, now I want to watch how this will be delivering on the downside, because it looks like it has definitely quite some potential to deliver some lower prices. Already used this as inversion for value gap here and attacked quite a bit lower. I mean, one candle delivered 40 handles almost. That's quite a bit, but yeah, I'm not necessarily sold on the idea yet, but just willing to watch and see. So far, this could still be like a retracement lower that would or could continue higher. And this type of weak down into this discount and coming all the way up here, this outside this warrants rather a continuation higher than a reversal in my mind, unless we start losing ground below this consecutive encroachment of this discount week that was just formed on this previous candle. This is kind of like a line in the sand. Now we can also judge this inversion fair value gap here for potential premium sensitivity, and this inversion fair value gap here for potential premium sensitivity. We also have a bearish order block in here, and the mean threshold of that is around this level. So these both are kind of like lines in the sand, where if bullish, price should have no issues going through that and never breaching that on a closing basis. If bearish, it should never breach this on the upper half and have no issues closing below this consecutive encroachment. So it's kind of iffy still, I would say, but we can measure those two PD arrays on both sides of the spectrum and possibly glean some insight from it. All right, so we have this inversion value gap here. It kind of failed here already in my mind. We have this higher one there, so it can prove itself, and we have the mean threshold of the order block. So that would be like the three PD arrays, three premium arrays that could or should prevent price from rallying up if it's actually bearish. If it's not, then we'll see, right? And then maybe that will be indicative that it wants to run the buy liquidity above those highs up there. Maybe those highs up there also. Kinda smooth. But yeah, clearly or definitely some slower price action that could, at this moment, could really go either way, I feel like. So let's see. All right, so we are approaching the mean threshold of that order block. And we basically breached all of those three potential premium arrays on the upside, and we even closed above that. So the near-term bearishness seems to have a slightly hard time out, I would say. And with that said, I kind of favor the buy side liquidity at 29, 39 and a half as a potential next objective. We'll see. We have this upper octane, so any nice discount rate that could form around that would have been potentially solid idea to get in line with that. So let's see. Aggressive version of approaching this would be entering on this reclaimed inversion for value gap straight away. But yeah, I don't think being aggressive within this session is something that you necessarily want to do. Right, and now for the opposite spectrum, right? So if it breached all of those premium arrays like this, and now it's trading lower, so on the discount spectrum of the side, we would have this reclaimed inversion for value gap, one discount array. Second one would be this reclaimed bullish fair value gap there. And the last one would be this weak up or down to consecutive encroachment. So entering on any potential long idea in either this, or this would basically mean the stop loss would need to be kind of below this low, or at least the lower quadrant. And that would have been kind of like the line in the sand for this idea that it could potentially seek the buy side liquidity higher, which I kind of favor at the moment, right? So entering on this one here would be quite decent, I feel like. I definitely missed that boat or that train already, but but that's kind of how it would potentially look like, and where the stop loss would need to be, right? The stop loss would need to be somewhere around here. So entering at the higher one, that's quite a bit of a stop loss. So honestly, I would barely be allowed, I would barely be able to use one micro contract that would allow my risk parameters. The lower one would offer me a way better risk to reward gearing here, but that one is already gone. And targeting as far as those highs, yeah, so 1 to 1.5 would be like the idea, I guess, for it here. But yeah, regardless. All right, so it's climbing higher, definitely. Leaving somewhat of relative equal highs in here and kind of treating those equal highs as resistance, which I personally think that it could give way in here. It's dropping lower now. I mean, maybe I could fish if it would allow this lower fair value gap one more time. Maybe then I could look for something to engage with as a discount. All right. And as I mentioned earlier, the stop loss would need to be below the lower quadrant of this week, this discount week, with the idea that we could reach potentially towards the buy side liquidity. So yeah, I'm using this reclaimed bullish fair value gap, close proximity, as my entry means to run the buy side liquidity here and continue towards those equal highs up there. The stop loss resides below lower quadrant of this large discount wick, and yep, that's kind of the idea here. So now let's watch what it does, how it does. So yeah, I mean, generally, I don't necessarily want to see much resistance off of this inversion here. I would like to see price climb above it as quickly as possible. Potentially challenge those. All right, nice. We start to see a little bit of a run higher out of it. I like that, and I would really like to see price challenge these equal highs right now. Yeah, so I guess as long as we are inside of this range in here, we can see a lot of give and take, back and forth. But yeah, nothing in here necessarily, in my mind, says that this is completely wrong at this moment. It still kind of holds through the initial idea, to the initial idea. We are shortly going to approach the macro at 10:50, 11:10. So that's probably when we will start to see, or we should see the price run to start. All right, I like this candle here, seeking upside a little bit more. That's great. Yeah, I guess within these conditions, aiming for the best case scenario is quite ambitious, or too ambitious, I feel like. So hitting any low-hanging fruit objective on the upside, I would be probably more than content to just take it and be just happy with that. Because yeah, so far this price action here doesn't necessarily look like it's very good for very ideal price swings, delivering best case scenarios, best targets. It sees a little bit of difficulties here, so hello my friend. I'm doing actually good. Thanks for asking. Rolling with the series still. Yeah, for this one I use only one micro because the stop loss would not permit me anymore do how much volatility and risk I would need to incur with that. So this one is only one, but generally, as I'm fighting with the drawdown currently, I try not to risk more than 100 to 125 bucks. That's like my sweet spot. So whatever number of contracts allows me that with reasonable stop loss, I just take that. Yeah, I mean, quite some messy price action around here, but quite expected, I guess, within these conditions. Still, I wouldn't say it still doesn't necessarily prove anything wrong, especially as we are able to hold this inversion for value gap upper half, and so far we are not seeing any bodies in the lower half. That's good. So that's what I want to see. Any expansion towards those equal highs is welcome, and after that we will have to see. We either see displacement through that, and that's ideal. If we start being slow and shallow, then it's not the best case, so it's probably a place for a partial. I have only one contract, so I will not not hesitate and just close. But yeah, let's see if I will be able to get that even. Yeah, it seems kind of smooth on the highs, while kind of jagged on the downside. Like this was pretty jagged run. This was pretty jagged run. This is kind of smooth. So let's see. So yeah, the macro has just begun. We are inside of a small little time distortion type of price action, small little range that's being compressed into smaller ranges. So I'm assuming some measure of expansion is ahead of us. Which way, that's something that we will definitely still see. But yeah, assuming a run, a retracement, another stop count, anything up until this consecutive encroachment of this week is, I feel like, technically permissible. Obviously, I would prefer not to see that deep of a retracement, but that's kind of what I'm covering with my stop loss. So yeah, the macro is leaving those equal highs intact and starts dropping lower first into those discount arrays, which theoretically, if it's bullish, that doesn't sound necessarily bad, right? Theoretically. So yeah, right now it approaches the upper half of that discount week, which also overlaps with that 50% consecutive encroachment from the daily chart. So that's kind of where I would assume it should see a reaction, right? It should see sensitivity. We don't want to see closing prices being thrown below the consecutive encroachment of that week, because if it does, then the probabilities are shifting against me. So yeah, it violated 2 of the 3 discount arrays that I had in mind while framing the trade, because it closed below this one, it closed below this one, and this discount week is the last one I have as my defense mechanism. So it either turns around here and goes higher, or I will get stopped out, and I will take that then. I will take that. So yeah, how do you know if it will hold or not? You don't necessarily know. You never know, but you just trust, right? You just trust it will. In this case, it's reaching into the lower half. It tapped the lower quadrant in here. That doesn't necessarily look well in my mind, because it looks like it's gonna close below the consecutive encroachment, and that's a stop out. So I guess that's a fair deal in this case, or in this scenario. And yeah, that's fine. I will take that. I will take that. I will not play around with it. And yeah, let me show you the account balance. So it's 49, 48 and a half. That was the loss, 103 and a half. And yeah, and I will just take it. I will just take it for today, and I'll be done for now. So yep. That's fine. That's fine. I was reasonably following the idea. The fact that I was stopped out like this, 3p raise, give way, I was just wrong. So that's reasonable. Nonetheless, thanks for watching. I'll be there for more action tomorrow, and we'll see how it goes. Still, drawdown recuperation will continue. See ya.